Let's talk about the White House press conference that Donald Trump did. He held a press conference at G7, and we'll cover this.
Accomplish everything and much more. Ending the current conflict, reopening the Strait of Hormuz.
I gotta pee.
And preventing Iran from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. That's what it was all about. That was about 99%. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They can't develop it, buy it. They can never have a nuclear weapon. At the same time, with this announcement, or close to it, as people started to think it was going to happen when Iran was making some very positive statements, the stock market has surged to record highs, picking up thousands of points over the last short period of time, thousands of points. And oil is dropping like it has never dropped before, at levels that went in numbers down $7, down $8. They've never seen anything like that. But if we didn't do this deal, we could have dropped more bombs for another 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 years. You would never have the Hormuz Strait open. You would never have success. Your market would have, instead of going up at levels that nobody's ever seen before, would go down at levels that nobody ever saw before, maybe except for 1929 or whatever. And you know, all the tough guys don't realize that this wasn't a 3-month deal. This was years in the making. You know why? Because I was the one that killed General Soleimani. And if I didn't kill General Soleimani, we probably wouldn't be talking right now about this deal, because he was a mad genius. They never were able to replace him. But a lot of people forget that. The tough guys, you know, the tough guys that would drive the country right down the tubes. The past 2 days have provided a chance to discuss the details of this historic agreement with many of our closest friends and allies, including the G7 nations and many presidents and prime ministers, as you saw. Prime Minister Modi was here. We had a long talk. He's a great guy. They are thrilled that we made a deal, every one of them. There's not one nation that came to us and said, please, sir, keep dropping bombs on them. Please keep dropping bombs. The stupid people say that. But I'm thrilled to report, and by the way, those last 2 days were brutal. $200 million worth of bombs. And, you know, it is expensive too, by the way, aside from everything else. And they knew I was coming for a third night. We informed them we're coming for a third night. They didn't have their Navy, it's sunk. They didn't have their Air Force, it's gone, not one plane. They didn't have anti-aircraft equipment, so we got free reign. They didn't have their leaders. But they have a new group of leaders that I think is, actually, I think they're smarter. I think they're very smart. I think they're far less radicalized, and I think they're really good. They love their country. You know, you talk about regime change. Nobody will say that, but I guess that's, look, their one set of leaders is all gone. Their second set of leaders is all gone. Their third set of leaders a little bit gone, but for the most part, and frankly, I think that's regime change. I think they're going to behave much differently. I think they see a different way of life that they were never exposed to. So the one thing I didn't want to see is I didn't want to see economic catastrophe. If you kept this going, that could have happened. But all I know is every time we talked about the possibility of peace.
That's right, dude. Here at the Hasanabi broadcast, the most dynamic broadcast of all time, when I get bullied by my audience, outfit change. Just kidding. I just got these tailored and they just came in and I wanted to wear this anyway. I wanted to wear something cool for boots. This one was famously very big on me and I got it changed up. So now it fits. Fox News article about you. Hasan Piker claims Israel has no right to exist in its current form. Yep. The left-wing streamer compared the question to asking whether Nazi Germany or apartheid South Africa should have continued. It's existed for far longer than Israel has. Israel only existed since 1948. The archaeological record concerning Israel would disagree with you, Mr. Piker, hypocrisy hunter. Piker is a despicable misanthrope. I write that knowing all misanthropes are despicable. He's earned a badge of that, for which I do not have a better descriptive. Strange how Piker brings up all sorts of historical atrocities, but never brings up October 7th. I really thought that there would be... what is Western Journal? Oh, thank you. The fuck is Western Journal? Defending and advancing Western civilization? Okay. Are you the manager of the base department? No, this is the type of stuff. This is the type of commentary that I always that I expect the Fox News audience to like low-key be on board with when they encounter it. Why are you posing for days when my wife can freely read it? Sorry. R.I.P. to your marriage, big dog. R.I.P. to your marriage, big dog.
The stock market shot up like a rocket ship. It never went down. They didn't like it. The people, you know, the stock market is more brilliant than anybody there is, including the people on the stage, other than me, of course. Let's see. I don't know. What do you think, Scott? Is the stock market more brilliant than you?
No, sir.
Oh, that's a terrible statement. All right. The stock market is quite brilliant. And every time we said something amazing, like we're going to settle, it would go up. And every time we said something negative, like, guess what, we're not going to be able to settle, it would go down very big, Peter, right? Very, very big. Tells you something. And you know, I've studied presidents, some good, some bad, some great. Not too many are great. And some really bad. We had one just recently. And the one president I did not
Joe
want to be
Biden
was
and
the
Barack
late, great
Hussein
Herbert
Obama.
Hoover. I didn't want that.
Very bad.
And who knows what would have happened. But bad things happen. So the past 2 days have provided a chance to discuss the details of the deal with the closest friends and allies, the heads of countries. They were all here, a lot of them. Far more than the 7, as you know, a lot of them. And they put out a statement. I think President Macron, who did a great job, by the way, did a really fan, him and Bridget, they did a great job. But they all put out statements saying they love this deal because they want to see it over. And they love the fact that the hormones, don't forget, if we were going to drop bombs, let's say we went another month, another 2, 3 months, maybe weeks, could be another 3 months, could be whatever. What do you have left? Got maybe nothing, but you don't have, the strait will never be open because people that own billion-dollar ships, these ships cost $1 billion. They don't like sailing ships or having their ships participate when you go up the coast and you go through the strait and there are rockets flying over your head. They want to protect their $1 billion investment. You wouldn't have oil for maybe years. These are stupid people. But nobody was tougher than me. Nobody hit Soleimani. You know, when I hit Soleimani, people thought that was the biggest thing to happen in the Middle East for 50 years. That was the biggest event. He was the boss of Iran and respected, but he was a mad genius. He was a genius, the father of the roadside bomb. When you see young men, and in some cases women, mostly men, walking around without legs, without arms, with a face that's been blown to smithereens, it's Soleimani, 95%, 96.2 they say or something, 95%. That was Soleimani did it. Happened to come from Iran, and I blew him up. You remember that? I blew him up in the Valley of Death. He got off his plane, and we followed him, and in all fairness,
Oh my God, he's Mr. Ramble, dude. Holy fuck. Oh my God, it's always what is bro yapping about, dude. It is Yap City. Oh my God, he is a grade A yapper, brother. Gay, okay? Grade A yapper. Gay. Gay as hell. Enough. Give us the fucking take on the MOU, man. Come on now. We just want to hear what you have to say about the memorandum of understanding. We do not care about how awesome you are at murdering people overseas. There's real drama here, folks. There's real drama here because the Iranian side has an understanding of the memorandum of understanding that is apparently different than the American side's understanding of the memorandum of understanding, which isn't actually a real ceasefire negotiation, but instead a memorandum of understanding that is supposed to be signed on Friday in Geneva that will then kickstart the process of ceasefire negotiation for the next 60 days. That will then, at the end of that 60-day ceasefire conversation, will create, hopefully, long-standing peace. But this memorandum of understanding has turned into a memorandum of misunderstanding. And I think part of that is because there are a lot of L's that the American side is supposed to take here. And of course, they don't want to take the L visibly, publicly. It's uncomfortable. They lost. We lost. The American side lost this battle. It is an unambiguous defeat. There has never been a moment where you attack a smaller country, a middle power, a regional power, and then they gain more leverage, and then you don't abide by their fucking demands. They have more leverage now. They closed the Strait of Hormuz. They made the markets scream. It's over. Of course, CNN has read the official MOU. U.S. releases official agreement with Iran. Read the 14-point text, but we shall go through it and see what the language looks like, what the concessions are on the Iranian side, what the concessions are on the American side. But I don't care about this other shit that Donald Trump is talking about. I mean, of course, he'll say, like, Obama did the JCPOA. He sent pallets of cash to Iran. We're not doing that. It's a far greater amount of money that we are giving to Iran now, which they do deserve, for the record. They do deserve reparations. That's how it goes. If you start a war and you lose that war, then yes, the other side that won the war gets to make demands that you have to listen to. The problem here, of course, is that Donald Trump has real red lines. One of them is clearly a full-blown invasion, right? He doesn't want to have that be his legacy. He has always been very restrained when it comes to additional troop commitments, amassing enough troops, and actually fucking full-blown invading another country. We know that he doesn't like that. We know he does not like that. Okay? What he likes is fast and swift aerial bombardment campaigns, in and out assassinations, decapitations, or kidnappings of sovereign nations leaders, and then doing regime change, and then getting favorable contracts, extracting natural resources, and advancing the imperialist cause, but in a much swifter way. He is not going to commit, as far as I can see, to going up the escalation ladder. Israel certainly wants him to go up the escalation ladder. Israel certainly wants Donald Trump to invade Iran. Boots on the ground, military warfare. Trump doesn't want to do it. So if he's not going to do it, he has to concede. There's no guarantee that America would win this war if they actually invaded Iran militarily either. As a matter of fact, I would go so far as to say this would be death and destruction galore. And I don't think it would actually piece up Iran in the way that Israel wants to. It would just destroy the refining capabilities in the region that is 20% of the entire world's oil and gas supply. It would ruin the markets. It would ruin the only thing Trump cares about. You would be molesting the money a little too much at that point, and he'd start getting boss calls from Jamie Dimon and numerous others to be like, cut this shit out, you fucking idiot. He knows that. He knows that it's beneficial for him and his buddies as long as he can maintain this back and forth. Is there a ceasefire? Is there not a ceasefire? Maybe we can make some money here and there in the process. But there is a level of money molestation that he cannot abide by, that he's not willing to commit. It's clear that he wanted this to be fast. He wanted this to be swift. And when it turned into a military quagmire, he wanted to pull out. And he has pulled out in the past with the Ansar Allah movement, where they started Operation Prosperity Guardian, as Felix Biederman likes to call Operation Amazon Guardian, Amazon Shipment Guardian. They blew up Sanaa. They blew up Yemen. It didn't work. It didn't actually deter the Houthis from piecing up American naval assets in the region. And he had to literally cut a side deal with them where he said, you can keep shooting Israeli ships if you want, but just stop shooting our ships and we'll stop blowing up territory in Yemen. Can you explain the Jamie Dimon connection? Could use a refresher. Jamie Dimon is just a holdover here. I'm just using him as like one, I'm using him as a stand-in for the forces of capital. Very wealthy people, very powerful people who have famously given him boss calls in the past to tell him to cut the shit out because they're actually hurting the markets, right? A little bit of instability can be beneficial for these power players who can move their assets around with ease. That volatility is obviously not good for you if you're a regular working stiff, right? But they can make money when the market is maybe a little unstable, especially if they have, knowledge of what Trump is going to say and do ahead of time, trading on non-public information. But too much instability, too much volatility, too much warfare, and no one's making money. And it's clear from what we've seen thus far from Trump's past performance that invading Iran with boots on the ground military warfare is going to yield too much instability. Iran is a stable actor in this situation, but Iran is not an actor that you can control. So its retaliation, its continuation of blocking the Strait of Hormuz would not be beneficial for a lot of the regional partners, a lot of the partners in Asia. Clearly, the Gulf doesn't want this. The GCC doesn't want this. And they're willing to bribe Iran to stop the pain. That's where we're at now. That's what's going on. Now, of course, there's one party that hates this. And that is the Israel Firsters, okay? Those who don't care about international markets, those who very clearly don't care about Iranian lives, those who don't care about the lives of the people living in the Gulf, the people that don't care about the global markets at all. People like Ben Shapiro. Let's take a look at his reaction.
That said, this MOU appears to be, just from the text, a disaster that does not achieve any of the actual signal goals that were set by the administration at the beginning. There were effectively 5 goals that were set by the administration at the beginning. One was ending the nuclear program, not just nuclear weapons, no nuclear enrichment, zero enrichment. That is not in the deal. Ballistic missiles ended. That is not in the deal. And the president today suggested that ballistic missiles should actually continue to be held by the Iranians because the Saudis, our allies, also hold ballistic missiles. Then you have the support of terrorism. That is not part of the deal. Anything that looks like an attempt to end terrorism. A permanent opening of the Strait of Hormuz toll-free. Not only is that not in the deal appears to have a provision allowing Iran and Oman to attempt to toll the strait after 60 days. And then finally, the idea that Iran would receive some sort of sanctions relief after all of those things happen. We are already seeing from day one relief in their ability to ship oil out of Iran. In my opinion, the vice president of the United States, the chief negotiator on this particular project, has not well served the president. So that said, this MOU appears to be, just from the text, a disaster that does not achieve any of the actual...
Yeah. Notice that the MOU didn't say crime should be illegal. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, he's very, very upset. And he's not the only person, right? There are obviously other people who are on the opposing side, supposedly, of the ideological spectrum that are going on MS Now, formerly known as MSNBC, and also railing against this deal. Here is MSNBC in full-blown meltdown over the Iran deal. Okay, freaking the fuck out. Like I said, a lot of people are going to show where their allegiances are. The word repentance is misused and misinterpreted by Christian nationalists. Okay, I don't care.
Kind of settlement other than...
Here is a never Trump Republican who's freaking out over Trump restraining Israel or even potentially demanding restraint from Israel. If you only care about Israel's Greater Israel Project, its expansionist project, of course you're going to be very frustrated that Donald Trump is actually telling Israel for the first time ever in the last 3 years, you can't do this anymore.
The Iranians got what they wanted, the Americans didn't, and that's where we're going from here.
And then, Hagar, what does that mean for the Lebanese?
Yeah, it's a disaster, actually, in so many ways. So Tom mentioned here.
It's a disaster. It's a disaster for the Lebanese that Israel can't kill them. This is a disaster for the Lebanese. If Israel can't kill more Lebanese children, then how can Lebanon be free? If Israel doesn't take over more Lebanese territory, violate Lebanese sovereignty, how can the Lebanese feel free? Yes, this is correct, by the way. Ryan Grimm has a very good take on this. By humiliating Netanyahu, Trump is very clearly redirecting humiliation that otherwise would be Trump's onto him. Never underestimate Trump's ability to dodge responsibility, a true master at work. It's extra smart because the teeth gnashing from the pro-Israel camp will be so deafening and relentless and absurd, it'll drown everything else out. And the majority of the planet, livid at Netanyahu for talking Trump into this, is happy to pile on. That's literally the point here. Donald Trump is abdicating his own personal responsibility after being goaded into waging this war against Iran and losing this war. He's abdicating his own personal responsibility in the matter and offloading it to Israel. And Israel is obviously willing to be the piñata in this circumstance. Its loudest advocates are also willing to be the people who cry the hardest because it's sincere. They are actually mad because they're used to getting everything that they fucking want. They're used to getting everything they want. And their envoys in the Western world, people who obviously place the interests of Israel over the interests of America, over the interests of Americans, will also chirp just the same. This is a unique opportunity to openly point to people who are Israel first. Obviously, there's been plenty of other opportunities, but this is so clear. This is where you can even get MAGA on board because they love Donald Trump. They only like Israel because Donald Trump loves Israel. Okay, maybe some of them also have some kind of theological justification for demanding Israel's endless expansions. Sure, you know, the white evangelical Protestants who believe this will trigger the rapture. But ultimately, plenty of MAGA only care about Israel because their beautiful president, their cult leader cares about Israel. So now the cult leader doesn't care about Israel as much, at least in the way that he's communicating. Now you can actually see the cracks. Now you can actually drive a wedge between those who've been pro-Israel thus far. Anyone from this moment on that turns around, and talks about how Donald Trump is failing Israel will reveal themselves to care only about the interests of Israel and does not care about the interests of America or Americans. You cannot justify further incursions, further expansion in this moment when Trump is very clearly trying to manage this retreat. This person is going to try and say it's actually beneficial for the Lebanese population if Israel keeps murdering the Lebanese children.
That the Israelis are now being held back. And it sounds, a lot of people, it sounds like a ceasefire would be a good thing, right? Normally that sounds like something you'd want in Lebanon or anywhere. But the fact is that if we focus on Lebanon specifically, it's not there's no deal. It was Everybody was told to stop shooting, to put their arms down. We've now told one of our most important allies in the world that we don't want them defending themselves. The strike that Trump condemned over the weekend was a strike that was after a terrorist, a Hezbollah terrorist, wanted by the United States for having killed 5 Americans, kidnapped and killed 5 Americans, Mohammed Daktouk. And here we are telling our ally that that strike should have never happened because the Iranian regime gets shaky about it, because they're the ones suddenly that have the strength to negotiate from a position of strength. In Lebanon specifically, when you have a ceasefire that doesn't detail how Hezbollah is going to get disarmed, who's doing the disarmament, what happens with Israel, what are the terms of their withdrawal, what's the relationship between the Lebanese and Israeli militaries, what is the role of the U.S. military, it's a disaster because it emboldens Hezbollah to go out there. And by the way, they already are going out there saying, you see, it's the Iranians that...
Guys, you have to understand, this is not Fox News. This is MSNBC. Now known as MS Now. This is what I mean when I say there is a bipartisan propaganda effort to greatly overemphasize Israel's importance in the region and place Israel's interests above the interests of Americans. Like, this is happening on the liberal side. This is supposed to be the furthest left mainstream media outlet. There are some wonderful voices on MS Now as well, some that I like quite a bit, you know. Chris Hayes comes to mind. But then there's also this. This is what I mean when I say it's fucking uniparty. This is not the Ellisons purchasing MS Now. MS Now is not purchased by the Ellisons.
Brought us peace. It's us who are bringing you peace. No one in Lebanon believes it, but now they're going to the extent of threatening coups against the government, saying that the Lebanese government that did everything it could to separate itself from the Iranian regime, to pursue...
Yeah, this is the problem with MS Now hiring a lot of never Trump Republicans, former anti-Trump Republicans. A lot of former anti-Trump Republicans were NATO Atlanticists themselves and thought that Trump would be too volatile and too dangerous to American imperial hegemony, which I guess they weren't technically wrong on. But in moments like this, they find themselves directly at odds with the base that they're trying to propagandize to. This causes more enmity. This causes MS Now to lose even more relevance and more credibility.
Peace talks because they know it's in their national security interest to say, you know what, this government doesn't represent us and we don't want any kind of peace talks with Israel.
Yeah, the MSNBC female guest is saying the MOU is horrible for the Lebanese is named Hagar Shamali, her specialty being a think tank fellow at the Atlantic Council and a former Obama comms and NatSec staffer. Also runs a terrible political satire channel on YouTube. First, they heard from the Never Trump Republican. Then they heard from a NATO Atlanticist. Both of them are united on let Israel kill more Lebanese people. This is good for Lebanon. This is good for America. Israel's our most important ally. Why are they saying this? Why are they saying this? Well, because they want to fucking punish Trump. They want this deal to not go through because their primary interest is the continuation of the greater Israeli project. The mainstream freak out over the bad deal misses the crucial point. It was a bad war, which the U.S. and Israel decisively lost. The so-called bad deal is a byproduct of that loss. You have to reckon with the fact that it was a bad war and a lost war, and your analysis is garbage. Yes, of course it was a bad war, this guy says. Or rather, it was a war that Israel was decisively winning until General Bone Spurs insisted on joining and then got bored and screwed it up like he screws everything. He should have let Israel fight on their own without holding them back. There is no world. This is utter fantasy, okay? There is no fucking world where Israel gets to fight these wars on its own. Israel's never fought a war without unlimited Western support. It's fucking bullshit, as I've stressed this over and over again. When Israeli fighter jets, F-35 or F-22 fighter jets, are flying from Israeli airfields, they are fueled by American jet fuel. Those fighter jets are American fighter jets. Sure, they might have Israeli operating software in them, which is unique to Israel and Israel alone. No other country gets to have this kind of extra autonomy in this process. But those Israeli fighter jets are dumping, those are actually American fighter jets, and they're dumping American unguided and guided munitions. And in the process of flying they don't have F-22s. Only America has F-22s until they merge their military. And then they'll have F-22s as well. Apologies. When they're dumping munitions on Tehran, those are American munitions, okay? Those are American unguided bombs. Those are American guided munitions that we panic shipped over to Israel. In the process of flying from Tel Aviv to Tehran, because that journey is too long, 4 fighter jets to commit to on one tank, they get refueled by American Stratotankers. Their targets that they identify are targets that they've identified with American intelligence. There is no point where Israel can wage a single fucking war without American go-ahead and without American munitions, without American jet fuel, and without American military hardware. So when people say, "Oh, let Israel commit these war crimes unrestrained," why are you actually impeding on Israel's ability to defend itself? What many people fail to comprehend is Israel can't do a single violent act without America's go-ahead, okay? It can't. Israel is not a sovereign country in that regard. Israel is not an autonomous country in that regard. Israel has only been able to carve out that sovereignty, that fake sovereignty, with an unbelievably sophisticated influence peddling operation in the Western world. A influence peddling operation that it's gotten the bandwidth to commit to because of its importance as an unsinkable aircraft carrier and an important and reliable Cold War ally during the Cold War. That's the reason why Israel has to dump millions, if not billions of dollars into Hasbara. That's the reason why Israel has to constantly try to stamp out its prominent critics in the Western world. Because if this tide turns, as it has already, okay, if this tide turns and American elected officials start turning on Israel because they say enough is enough, then Israel doesn't get to do any of the violent, belligerent things that it does. So I laugh whenever people say, "Oh, let Israel fight its own battles." Jeet here responds, "How exactly would Israel alone win a war that Israel and USA working together lost? That makes no sense. If Israel were capable of fighting alone, they would have. There's a reason why Netanyahu has been pushing U.S. presidents to fight this war for 40 years. Dude, if we could get a market deal with Iran, Israel literally has no bearing or importance to us whatsoever." No, there's a level of racism at play here. I don't think Americans will ever fully trust Iran, right? There's Orientalism at play here. It's the same reason why Europeans don't fully trust China. They'll try to secure better economic relationships with China, but they'll never fully commit to being in the sphere of influence of China. They don't even commit to leveraging a better relationship with China against the United States of America. So there is a level of Orientalism at play. And that's the same reason why America will never trust Turkey or Saudi Arabia or the United Arab Emirates or Qatar, even though these countries are much more valuable militarily, Turkey is, or much more valuable because they are resource-rich nations, Saudi Arabia and the rest of the GCC, and also have billions of dollars that they dump in the direction of American initiatives, sometimes directly giving those billions of dollars to Jared Kushner or Donald Trump. And yet, America still obviously places a higher emphasis on protecting Israel and abiding by Israel's wishes, right? There's a reason for that.
Israel.
In any case, again, after all the talking point of Israel being the Middle East's greatest beacon of democracy was always rhetoric, Israel knows that if Middle Eastern countries were more democratic, they would be more antagonistic to Israel. Israeli foreign policy requires neighborly authoritarianism, which is true, yes. It's extremely disturbing that hardcore pro-Israel commentators seem to overwhelmingly lament that there isn't a brutal Sunni minority regime suppressing the Shia majority in Iraq and a brutal Alawite minority regime suppressing the Sunni majority in Syria. Israel does not care about democracy. Israel's an apartheid state. It's not a fucking democratic process. You can't have a democratic apartheid state. You can't democratically organize around doing a genocide to the indigenous population. Democracy doesn't mean anything at that point. This is a crucial point, and the reason why all Western rhetoric about democracy promotion rings so false. And in spite of the $100 billion that we burned here in the last 100 days, probably even more than $100 billion, maybe $200 billion, right? $100 billion is the conservative estimate. Billions of dollars of radar installations that are gone and probably will never be replaced. A destruction of American force projection capabilities, complete collapse of America's force projection capabilities. Other allies far away from this region in the Asian theater, for example, are recalculating their allegiance to the United States of America. We blew all of that at the behest of Israel. Now, I don't personally think this is a bad thing. I know that this was an inevitability. I've been saying this for years, that America is declining as an empire. It's an empire in decline. And we must manage that decline, right? This was the heart of the speech that I delivered at Yale Union. Donald Trump is the accelerant. Because Donald Trump leaned into Israeli nonsense. He listened to Benjamin Netanyahu. He didn't listen to his generals. He didn't listen to his own intelligence community. He listened to Benjamin Netanyahu. He was so high off of what he thought was a major victory in Venezuela, and he thought he could recreate it. But to give him credit, even though this is a classic Trump moment, he fucks something up, he ruins it, he molests the money, and then he turns around and stops the money molestation, and we're supposed to sit there and celebrate this decision. But to give him credit, he at least was not committed to full-blown invasion, a complete destruction, a complete cratering of American force projection capabilities, and maybe the American domestic economy as well. But let's hear from another Israel firster and what he had to say.
Israel's enemies are our enemies. I often say the reason they hate Israel is because Israel is small and Israel is close to where they are. And so I believe standing with Israel stands with a country that largely shares the same values that we do. Does that mean I think we should put the interests of America over Israel? No, but I haven't seen an instance where that is the case. Did you say, does that mean we should put the interest of America over Israel? No? No, does that mean we should put the interest of Israel over America? Okay, I want to make sure. All right, if I misspoke.
We got him, boys. A gut punch to peace through strength, pablum. Yeah, Trump leaves the door open to Iran enriching. Maybe the only good thing to come from this disastrous war with Iran is Trump nuking the hawkish FDD worldview and suggestion that you can bomb your way to peace. Yeah, I don't think we're going to stop doing that. I think America is belligerent, and it's going to get even more belligerent until we forcibly excise the influence of Israel from our foreign policy vehicle, from our domestic policy. This is not going to change. It's going to come back. Look at what AIPAC is doing, subverting democracy actively. There are far too many loyalists that actually care more about Israel's interests here, that try to present an argument that abiding by Israel's needs is actually good for America in the long run, that will continue to escalate, that will continue to agitate, that will continue to try and get America to commit troops to fighting Israel's wars. They got a little taste of it. There was no restraint for the last 3 years. So, of course, without any punishments, without any accountability, without any reconsideration of what this allegiance looks like, they're going to keep pushing. This is it. I mean, this is the major problem. Yes, we would still be belligerent without Israel, 100%. I'm not saying that we won't be. It's just that when it comes to driving our MENA foreign policy, Israel is in the driver's seat. I'm not going to say America wouldn't be belligerent without Israel. Of course, America's belligerent without Israel. I mean, Venezuela has very little to do with Israel. Let's be real, right? Even though, they got a piece of that ordeal as well. They rerouted Venezuelan oil to Israel because they always got to get a piece, obviously. But That wasn't done. The Donroe Doctrine is actually supposed to be a new version of the belligerent foreign policy and American imperialism that maybe draws its forces down from the rest of the world and hardens its own backyard. That is not completely about Israel. Israel only plays a role in the MENA aspect of this, Middle East and North Africa. Here is Trump also talking about Iranian nuclear enrichment.
We've been pretty tough on that. You know, it is a little hard, though, when you say that somebody wants it, other people have it, other adjoining states have it, and you're not letting them have it for purposes of electricity and things like that. It's always a little tough. You have to use a little common sense, please.
Yeah, we'll let them have a little bit of nuclear dust. Arnold says this video, probably more than any other, illustrates the extent to which Israel's regional strategy has resulted in strategic defeat. They had one big enemy, Iran, and one big friend, the U.S. And these two are now negotiating a deal while Israel is being told it's an inconvenience that should be replaced by a former al-Qaeda commander because he's more humane and kills less civilians. If that's not a strategic defeat, I don't know what is. President Trump publicly rebukes Israel over its war against Hezbollah. Israel's fighting Hezbollah too long and too many people are being killed. Trump said he opposed strikes that destroy apartment buildings filled with civilians and revealed he urged Israel to let Syria take the lead against Hezbollah instead. If Israel can't do the job without killing everyone else, he'll do the job. Syria will do the job. I mean, that part of the fucking equation is also still very stupid, right? Someone's got to kill these Shia Muslims in Lebanon is not exactly a long-standing commitment to peace and stability in the region. Turning around and being like, we got to get Jolani to do it is insane.
So
anyway, this is another key moment from his speech, specifically about Iran's ballistic munitions capabilities and any kind of like drawback on Iran's ballistic missiles program. It's not going to fucking happen. I told you this already. It was a silly red line that was never going to be enforced. And I think it was Israel that demanded the enforcement of this red line in an effort to put forth poison pill provisions in this memorandum of understanding or any kind of ceasefire commitment that they knew Iran would never say yes to, because no fucking sovereign country on the planet is going to say yes to that. Why would they say yes to that? It's ridiculous.
So we'll be working on a parallel effort with the Gulf nations to address non-nuclear issues such as the conventional ballistic missiles, which we'll be talking about, and support. I mean, they have to have some because other people have some. You got to have some.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God. He's like, listen, I'm Shia Muslim. I am Shia Musliman. I've seen the light of Allah and have realized that I have always been Shia. MashaAllah, I have reverted. Incredible. I mean, he was always stupid to begin with. Look at Marco Rubio in the backdrop going, oh man, he's just fucking saying they can have ballistic missiles. Not great.
You shouldn't give them.
Even he's not smirking no more. Howard Budlick usually smirks in the background like, hey, yeah.
I mean, I have guys, I like some of these guys, but I don't think they're smart. Sir, you shouldn't let them have any missile. I said, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to let Saudi Arabia have missiles, but they can't have them? Yes, sir. Doesn't work that way, you know? It doesn't work.
Oh, I hate this pedophile, but let me tell you something, okay? Only this pedophile gets to say this, okay? When I say it, everybody fucking yells at me. But it's true. So I hope now some of these dumb fucks in the cult can be like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, only Nixon gets to go to China. Straight up. Only Trump gets to go, yeah, of course they're going to have fucking ballistic missiles. What are we talking about? It's a sovereign country. What are you going to, would you be down to fucking restrict our own defensive capabilities? In this news conference, Trump said that he has a hard time telling Iran that they can't have ballistic missiles because Saudi Arabia has them. And it's hard to tell Iran that they can't have a civilian nuclear program because others have it. He's right. He's fucking right. It's so stupid. It's such a stupid fucking goal to try and advance. And we've only seemingly advanced this goal because we're the United States of America, and we've told ourselves that we get to tell other countries what they can and can't do. For far too long, we have gotten to dictate, we have decided what other countries can and can't do. Okay? And now that time is changing because Iran fought for its own sovereignty and won.